Should you confront employees? Here's what leaders need to know. In today's live training, we're going to talk about confrontation. Is it needed? When to do it and how to do it. It is not an easy thing, and yet you might be confronted with having to do it in your role as leader. So my name's Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And what I do is I get to work with leaders such as yourself on a day-to-day basis. I spend a lot of my time coaching and doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. And in those coaching sessions, one of the subjects that come up a lot is how to confront situations, how to have those hard conversations, how to hold boundaries, communicate them with a lot of confidence and assertiveness without being aggressive, without compromising the relationship. And that is all in service of becoming more influential, helping employees perform better. And if your employees are performing better and they're stepping up to the plate and they want to do the work, that means you get to step away and do the work, the strategic work that's on your desk, and really lean into your zone of genius. So that is what I do, and I'm excited to talk about this really important topic today. Joining me is someone who is near and dear to me that's part of my team. Kay is my right-hand woman, and I'm sure you have lots to say on this topic because, you know, we do operate slightly differently than the typical organization, and we actually, everything that we're going to cover today, we live on a daily basis. So Kay?
Sure. So, hi everyone. For those of you joining, I'm Kay. I'm the client solutions specialist at In Charge Coaching. And what that means is I help deliver value to leaders. Every day I get to speak to leaders and equip them with information and proven strategies so they are able to create great workplaces, great culture where their teams feel supported and inspired to do their best work. And I feel like, Melissa, you mentioned like we tackle this on a day-to-day basis, and working with you, like the way you approach these conversations is very refreshing. So it's never about the blame, and it feels the approach just doesn't make the feedback easier to hear. It makes me want to step up and do better because I feel supported. So I'm very excited to dive into this topic with you, and yeah, like just provide value.
It's interesting. I just had the memory. So one thing that happens a lot is people say, "Wow, what a great job! Like you must enjoy doing your work. Like must be so easy, and like you just get to show up and do master classes and workshops and group coaching and all this coaching as if it's like easy." That it's
Yeah.
just about giving information or something like that. And in actuality, my job is having really difficult and transformational, and I want to take the word difficult out of it, challenging conversations that lead to transformation. And that's what I do every day is I have the conversations that other people don't want to have. That's what I get to do.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is really, really interesting and challenging. I don't know if I would say fun, but I would say very satisfying and connecting.
Absolutely.
And so when we say the word confrontation, you know, what happens? If you just kind of check in with yourself, what happens when you hear the word?
As an employee, what I can tell you is when I hear the word confrontation, I feel a bit uncomfortable. Like my immediate reaction is often like, am I in trouble? Or what did I do wrong? Or like there's a lot of fear looming around
There
being.
is something wrong with me,
Yeah.
right? It becomes really personal. So when I hear the word confrontation, it's a sensation right in the bottom of my belly. That's where I feel it. It's like
Yeah.
like really like at the base of my belly that's like, that gets activated. And, think about now confronting someone. What happens then in terms
I feel like if someone is coming at you with blame or judgment, you instinctively shut down or get defensive. And it's definitely different when somebody approaches you calmly or asks questions instead of making assumptions, where you feel like they actually care about finding a solution together and not just pointing out the problem or blaming the other person. Yeah, I feel like that makes a lot
it's
of difference.
interesting, as we're talking about the word confrontation, there's almost like an aggressive tone
Yeah. Yeah.
to this confrontation. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be me against you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's how it feels as we're thinking about it and as we're preparing to have these conversations. It does feel like a battle inside our minds, like, oh, I'm going to say this and then they're going to say that and then I'll respond this and then when they say this, I'll say that. You're trying to map out all the possible scenarios of what could come up in that conversation and how you're going to win or lose, right? There's like a feeling of winning or losing.
Mm.
And it is against the other person. So there's a lot, like we're talking about confrontation, and it doesn't seem like it's really great for the relationship. And yet, what happens when we don't confront? The if we go like the extreme opposite, now we're laissez-faire.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't confront, you are kind of like holding back, um, or not giving the person the opportunity to grow themselves. I feel like that is something that you're holding back on if you're not giving feedback, not confronting, or so to say.
Yeah. And so the opportunity loss there is
Yeah.
helping the person grow, helping them thrive. Nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't do anything, if we don't say anything, nothing changes because we're accepting the behaviors. And people cross lines, right? You probably experienced somebody stepping over, making assumptions, maybe saying things about you that you didn't authorize them to say, maybe undermining you, maybe bypassing you and going to somebody else on the chain of command to get what they want because you didn't give them the answer that they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not doing the work up to snuff. Maybe they're ignoring your directives. Maybe they're ignoring policies. Maybe they're ignoring procedures. Maybe you're trying to implement a new process and they're just ignoring that and doing it the old way. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in terms of crossing the line that we live every day. And so confronting is a part of our roles as leaders, that we have the title or not.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we confront? If confronting comes with a lot of risk and it's also necessary, how do we do this? And what I would point you to is confronting the right thing. Okay? And what we're confronting is not the person, but it's the situation or it's the behavior. And it's really important to get clear in ourselves before we even attempt to have a conversation about what we are actually confronting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get you to pull out a sheet of paper right now. And everyone at home or at work, wherever you are watching this, even a post-it note would do the trick here. Okay? A post-it note would do the trick. I want you to draw a line. And on one side, you're going to put your name. And on the other side, you're going to put the name of the person you need to have a conversation with. Okay? Okay. So this is what happens when we're confronting the person. Okay? We're coming at them. And then they're going to come back at us. And this is going to be, there's going to be a tug of war here. So when I'm talking about confronting the situation instead of the person, now draw a triangle. So we're going to draw a little triangle. On one, and I typically, and there's no right way to do this, it's just the way that I do it. So whatever corner you choose first, I choose the one of the lower corners to put my name on and the other one to put the employee or the person I'm going to talk to on. So my name and then the other person. And that leaves another point here for the situation, for what is it that we're confronting. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Visually, what are you seeing that's different?
So that's more like coming at you, and this is more of like a partnership.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we need to get very clear on what it is that we're confronting here. So this is a little exercise that I would invite you to do as you're thinking about doing that, the confrontation, confronting the situation, having the conversation. Get really clear on what is it that you're confronting and focus your attention on the situation. People aren't problems. People aren't problems. So what we want to do is separate the person from the problem. And going back to something that you said earlier, Kay, is as I'm thinking of being confronted, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to avoid, is the person feeling like there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start shifting our focus, when we start looking at things from this lens, how we appear, how we show up in the conversation, our tone, the language we're going to choose, how we express ourselves starts shifting. And what we think and our mindset really affects how we show up. We don't even realize it.
Yeah.
We don't even realize it. 80% of communication is nonverbal, and employees, they listen. They listen to everything that you're saying and everything that you're not saying. So it's really important to be clear in your mind as to what you want to communicate. What is the real issue for you? What are you thinking, Kay?
Well, what's coming up for me is how much fear plays a role in these situations. A lot of employees think if I admit to this mistake, so to say, am I going to lose the trust or my credibility, or will that affect how I'm seen in the future? So, a large part of it comes from fear and lack of trust. So, if you feel like your leader does not have your back, it's harder to open up. And I've been in those situations where a feedback felt more like a gotcha movement than an actual attempt to help me improve. So yeah, that's when you start to shut down emotionally.
Exactly. And once we shut down, once we become defensive, we are no longer in a collaborative conversation that's going to lead to transformation. So we really want to reduce, eliminate as
Yeah.
much as possible the blame.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to increase empathy, this collaboration. We want to leverage the fact that we have a relationship here and that together we're going to tackle the problem. So experientially, okay, I'm going to put you right on the spot here, and if you don't want to answer, don't.
Okay.
What am I doing as we're confronting situations? What am I doing that's putting you at ease and that's making it clear to you that there's nothing wrong with you?
Well, you never make it about the blame. So you always start with curiosity. You will be like, uh, how are you feeling about the situation or what's happening here? It doesn't feel like a lecture, it feels like an actual conversation. It's feel like you're really good at making me feel like we're on the same team, even when something needs to be addressed. It's usually framed in a way that says, or that conveys to me at least, like, let's figure this out together. So, yeah, so that approach, it just makes feedback or confrontation just easier to hear and process.
So the frame of the conversation is going to be a really, really important key here. Setting the intention. Hey, I'm feeling really concerned about X. Sharing your feelings is not a bad thing as a leader. We should share our concerns and our frustrations and all of these things. It's part of feedback. So I'm really concerned about X situation or X outcome or X thing that's happening. I'd really like to have a conversation about this so we can figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that something that you'd be open to? Right? Even just that frame. So we're making it very specifically about the situation and we're inviting a collaborative conversation. All right, so that leads us to number 2. Step 2. There's only 2 steps here today in this live training, but they're 2 very important steps. The second step is staying empathetic to the employee. And I will say that when it comes to empathy, when we are feeling stressed, or we even feel like in that self-protection mode, if we think we're going to be doing or embarking on in a confrontational conversation, we get into self-protection mode, empathy immediately goes down. It is natural for that to happen. We are human. We are designed to survive, right? And so it is completely normal to start losing empathy when we are feeling in that struggle or if there is something to confront. So be aware that that is going to start happening. With shifting your focus to the situation being the problem instead of the person, that will help you stay empathetic. That will help you stay empathetic and even increase empathy as you're heading into the conversation. All right. Not an easy thing to do. It is easy to say it. People say, of course, you stay empathetic. And yet, when you are in the heat of the moment and you're feeling angry or frustrated or resentful or whatever feeling is coming up because of this situation, empathy is
Mhm.
not going to be that easy. Okay. So,
Yeah.
for yourself, stay tuned in. Remember what the real issue is for you. It is the situation, not the person. And we're going to lean into our empathy and increase empathy with the employee. All right. So, curiosity, as you mentioned, Kay, that is the first point I want to make under this banner of how to stay empathetic. If you can't be empathetic, be curious. Okay. You're not feeling it. It's okay. Just get curious about it. And curiosity is a door for empathy. Once you start getting curious about the person, about the behavior, why this is happening, things shift. And
Mhm.
The reality is all behavior is purposeful. Okay, so some choice theory here. All behavior is purposeful, and all behavior is in service of meeting that person's needs. So that means a need is being compromised, and therefore the person is behaving in an attempt to satisfy that need, and it is their best attempt based on past behavior, so what's worked for them in the past and what they know now.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not giving feedback, if we're not sharing information, they can't do anything different, right?
Yeah.
Can't do anything different. So get curious, what's behind the behavior? What's behind this? What's really going on here? And as you start exploring, you're going to start getting somewhere. And as you're increasing empathy, you'll be able to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So the second piece here is dig deeper. Get to the real issue, because the first thing the person's going to say is not the thing. The second thing the person's going to say is not the thing. The third time they answer the question, it's not the thing. The fourth time, oh, we're getting somewhere. So dig deeper. Don't be afraid of asking the question, reframing the question, and really exploring what's worth exploring. Because if we band-aid the situation, nothing's going to change. We'll be okay for a month, and then you'll be dealing with the same situation. So we want to make sure that we get to the root cause, and investing a little bit more on the front end here in this conversation will mean saving yourself time in the long run, because you're not going to have to continue dealing with this situation. How's this resonating for you, Kay? And what are you noticing as I'm talking about this? You're probably having like memories and flashes of conversations we've had.
Yeah, I think what's standing out to me is, like you mentioned, how important it is to separate the person from the behavior. Like, nobody wants to feel like they're being labeled as difficult or the problem. So you're absolutely right in saying, like, when leaders focus on the situation instead of making it personal, it feels more constructive. And I do remember it, like in my past company, I was falling short on deadline because of some personal issues at home, and I was overwhelmed. So like, instead of asking in this case, why are you always late? So a great leader would have asked, like, what's getting in the way of meeting these deadlines? So you're very right in pointing out the difference of the collaborative nature or the curiosity instead of just like coming at you. So yeah, that makes a lot of difference in working out a solution together.
Yeah. And if you've been listening to what Kay just said there, she presented two different questions that sound almost the same, and yet they have a different tone.
Yeah.
They feel very different. And
Um,
they have a very different outcome in terms of the response they're going to have.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the first example question was, why are you always late? To, what's getting in the way
Yeah.
of meeting the deadline? One is confrontational and will likely be about blaming or defending. And the other one is going to be starting to get to the root cause of what's actually happening. So for all of you listening, please say hi, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. What's resonating for you so far? So I'm about to dive into some of the issues around empathy. So empathy, part of empathy is connecting with the other person and understanding and conveying that understanding. Okay. And part of that is validating the other person's experience, validating them, acknowledging what's happening. And internally, you're going to have a question like, but how can I validate and acknowledge when I don't agree, when they're doing something bad, their behavior is bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's really important to understand that there is a difference between validating and agreeing, acknowledging and agreeing. These aren't the same thing. And so we can still validate, we can still help the person feel understood without agreeing with the behavior. For example, if somebody is experiencing frustration and resentment because things aren't going their way, I can understand that. I understand that you really want things to happen this way, and because it's not happening this way, because of XYZ, you're feeling frustrated. I recognize that feeling. When things don't go my way, I feel frustrated too. I'm on a
Mhm.
sit right now and I can only have 1 cup of coffee per day. I'm feeling frustrated. Doesn't mean, I should just go out and have 5 cups of coffee because that's what I feel like. No, right? We can validate, we can acknowledge without agreeing with the behavior. So I understand you're frustrated, and if this is what you want, what might be a better, more effective way of getting what you want? What's a
Mhm.
behavior here that would get us there? Right? So separate the person, their needs, and their experience from the behavior. They're connected, but acknowledge the person and then deal with the behavior, because that's what we're confronting. How's this landing for you, Kay? I know you read a piece of that I had written last week, and you said this was the piece that really sunk in and resonated.
Yeah, because personally, I struggle with this. So, validation without agreement, because you're not able to relate to the situation or what the person is saying. So, it becomes very difficult to validate what they're feeling. But when I read the piece, I understood it's more about validating what they are feeling, and that became easier for me because you also at one point must have felt that feeling somewhere, so it's easier for you to validate that because you understand that feeling. So that connection was like an aha moment for me, because I used to not give that validation, at least if I'm not agreeing with the person or in the situation.
Right.
So yeah, very thought provoking for me.
Yeah. And so as we're expressing empathy, as we're leaning into our empathy, what we're doing is we're connecting with the other person, we're nurturing the relationship, and we're really giving a great foundation um, of trust, so that we can, and trust is important to collaboration. You won't have this collaboration and this type of conversation if you don't have the trust. So as you're building trust, you're more collaborative, and you're moving through the issue together as you're nurturing the relationship. So the conversation might feel challenging, but after the conversation, we feel
Mhm.
like, wow, one, this is solved, and two, we feel closer.
Yeah.
It is amazing how often I've accompanied leaders, and I do this every week. I accompany leaders and I help them have these kinds of conversations with their employees. Conversations that they've been holding back, that they've been avoiding, that they just don't know how to approach, that they fear. They fear employees disengaging, demotivating them, losing them. I can't afford to lose them.
Mm.
Hiring again. Oh my God, if I say something, what's going to happen? What's going to be the repercussion? And it is hard to get good talent. It is hard to keep good talent. And there is a really big cost to turnover.
Yeah.
And so I see this outcome time after time after time of nurturing, building the relationship, and solving issues together. That's empowering the employee to be their best and to feel supported, And the leader gets to set their boundaries. They get to protect themselves and their time and their attention, their focus, and they get to do the work that they're meant to be doing instead of struggling with relationships or lack of boundaries or employees crossing the line, work not getting done. And boundaries is it is an important thing. It is an important thing, and it is not so easy because it requires these confrontations in order to communicate. And you don't have to wait for the confrontation, by the way, to set the boundary. And we'll talk about that in the masterclass. So what we've done this year, so brand new, really exciting masterclass that we're launching for the first time, January 28th. It's a 2-hour masterclass on boundaries and balance. How great leaders gain respect across the organization without losing themselves, without compromising themselves. And so in this masterclass, we are going to cover how to figure out what boundaries you need to be mindful of in order to thrive in your role as a leader, how you're going to communicate these boundaries with confidence and assertiveness without it feeling aggressive or creating that backlash that you're concerned about. And we're going to look at how to respect and maintain these boundaries so that your 2025 is amazing. I want you to be able to step into the leader you want to be, not feel as much pressure, and really thrive for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kay, what do listeners need to know about this masterclass?
So it's happening on January 28th and at 12 p.m. EST. I feel like this masterclass is about helping leaders navigate those tough situations without losing themselves. And leaders often feel like they have to choose between being respectful and being approachable. And if you've seen The Office, you will be able to relate to this. But in this masterclass, Melissa will show you how you can do both. So it's very, very important, and it will be very thought provoking and very interesting. And can't wait to see you there.
Absolutely. All right. So, The Office. It took me a moment. I'm with you. If you have a favorite Office meme, please drop it in the comments. I would love to see your favorite Office meme. All right. So, please join us. I'm so excited to be able to share more of this information with you. We're going to have a great 2 hours. You're going to walk away with lots of tools because I'm a very practical coach, and I want to make sure that you can take what you're learning and put it into action in your next conversation. So register. It is completely free, and I will see you on the 28th. So today we covered what is confrontation, why confrontation is important, and how to do it in a way that actually leverages and nurtures your relationship with employees while getting things resolved. So if you want more of this, please join me in the masterclass, and I will see you there.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.